Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to our investor forum for this week. We'll be jumping right into the company profile before we formally introduce our guest for this week, who is Mr. Ian Dare, CEO of Express Catering Limited. We encourage viewers to post their questions on social media and remember to tag us with the hashtag #MILInvestorForum. If you enjoy this program, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll also be featuring a market segment this week, so be sure to stick around until the end of our program. Express Catering Limited is a Jamaican company formed in 2001 to provide food and beverage operations at the Sangsters International Airport in Montego Bay. It is an owned subsidiary of Margaritaville Caribbean Group, owners and operators of the Jimmy Cliff's Buffett's Margaritaville franchise throughout the Caribbean. To date, the company currently employs over 270 persons on a continuing basis, with additional persons being brought in during peak seasons. Express Catering is also listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I'd like to welcome today Gary Parrott, our CEO, and our chairman, Christopher Berry, before we formally introduce our special guest, Ian Dare. I take this moment to remind you that if you're seeking to expand your portfolio or embark on your investment journey, please consider Mayberry, as we can guide you in achieving your financial goals. Follow us on social media and visit our website at www.mayberryinv.com to learn more. Our social media handles should pop up somewhere on the screen. So now, let's introduce our special guest for this evening, Ian Dare. He's more than just the CEO of Express Catering Limited. He's a businessman with more than 25 years of experience in the Caribbean tourism and real estate development sectors. He is an original founder and the current chairman and CEO of the Margaritaville Caribbean Group. Ian maintains active involvement in several community service organizations. Currently, he serves as a Justice of the Peace for the Parish of St. James, since originally being appointed in 1996. In 2020, the Jamaica Governor General appointed Ian to the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander Class for his contributions to the Caribbean tourism and real estate development sectors. Congratulations, Ian.
Thank you.
Today, Ian will be giving us an investor update on Express Catering Limited. And now I'd like to officially welcome you. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
To Chris and Gary and yourself, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Chairman Chris, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Haven't seen you, but we trust you're there. And welcome as well to Gary.
Thank you, Dan. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you.
All.
Excellent. So, Ian, I think you have a presentation to share with us
Yes.
before we get into today's questions and answers.
Sure. And before I go into the presentation, I just wanted to make mention that I also wanted to express my appreciation for Mayberry and the partnership that we have experienced over the last decade. As a financial institution and financial advisors, you're second to none, solid as they come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. Kudos to Chairman Berry and Gary Parrott.
Yes, thank you. So I'll jump right in, Dan.
Absolutely.
So before I get into the actual presentation, I just wanted to take the time to remember and celebrate our late director, Harry Maraj, who sadly passed recently. Harry was a great friend of ours and a mentor, and truly a partner in every sense of the word. He was a very keen businessman and who had great talent and of leadership. His vision and guidance has been key to the growth of our company, ECL Express Catering. It has been really a privilege and an honor to have known this amazing man. And we are grateful for what he has contributed and the rich and enduring legacy that he has left for us.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Harry, for what. COVID-19. Tourism, the world's third largest export category after fuels and chemicals, accounting for 7% of global trade in 2019, is one of the sectors most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, impacting economies, livelihoods, public service, and opportunities on all continents. All parts of its vast value chain have been affected. The government of Jamaica closed its air and seaports to incoming traffic, passenger traffic, on Saturday, March 21, 2020. The borders remain closed until June 15, 2020, reopening with 6 flights per day. So in preparing for the reopening, we had to prepare our teams. And of course, in order to achieve that, we had to adhere to the highest standards of safety and cleanliness to ensure the health and well-being of our crew members and guests alike. To help venue leadership teams navigate the new COVID-19 operating guidelines, ECL developed a comprehensive recover guide. Responsible COVID-19 reopening is a reference. The guide outlines the requirements and enhanced safety measures implemented prior to opening and for ongoing operations. To support the implementation of the new processes, brand training was conducted for all members of the team. Guidelines include required equipment, PPE, cleaning guidelines, social distancing requirements, preparing each property for operations and additional food handling protocols, all the different requirements under the COVID-19 scenarios. This guest experience, which was very important to achieve, is largely unchanged, aside from the requirements of masks and social distancing in all of our venues. Of course, through this challenging time, it was very important that we managed our costs and our expenses. So we, of course, immediately entered into negotiations for reduced lease rates with our landlords, MBJ. We, of course, focused on our labor costs and how to mitigate the hourly expenses that would come along with what a typical operation would look like. So we had team members, managers, and support staff jumping in every single role that was required in order to mitigate our costs. And this, of course, included covering cashiers, cooks, bartenders, hosts, and servers. So, you know, we had the team being paid on avoiding the additional cost of reduced business, and so the managers and the supervisors and the team all jumped in. So, and the list goes on. We really did a great job, I believe, in managing and mitigating our costs through this time. And that still continues somewhat, albeit that we've started to increase our numbers in comparison to that initial period. So let's jump right into some of our numbers. Financial year 2020 overview. Due to the global COVID-19 crisis, operations at Sangster International Airport was suspended, as I mentioned, March 15, 2020, and remained closed through the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2020. Express Catering Limited operated for 9.5 months in financial year 2020, compared to a full 12 months of operation in the prior fiscal year. The company was on pace to earn its highest profits to date in financial year 2020. Revenue for financial year 2020 was $14 million US, compared to $17.3 million in financial year 19. Revenues for the first 9 months in financial year 2020 was $12.9 million. This was a 6.6% increase over the same period in the prior year, resulting in net profits of $2.65 million, compared to $2.55 million for the same period in financial 2019. Overhead costs during the COVID-19 closure included employee, utility, and maintenance costs, which eroded the profits earned in June 2019 to February 2020. Financial year 2021 overview. MBJ Airports Limited reported an 88.83% decline in departing passengers numbers in Q1, June 2020 through August 2020, compared to the same period in the prior year. ECL revenue for the quarter of $444,000 declined in line with the reduced passenger totals. Departing passengers totals continue to improve. By the close of Q2, departing passengers improved by 25.9% of the prior year's totals, compared to 11.13% average for the first quarter. A change in accounting standards introduced for the fiscal 2020 had significant impact on the financial statements for the quarter. IFRS 16 accounting for leases added $667,000 to the current quarter's expense compared to the same period in the prior year. The resulting loss for the quarter was $1.08 million US, compared to a profit of $1.04 million for the similar quarter in the prior year. So let's look forward. MBJ and Express Catering continue to be strong partners through this challenging period. ECL and MBJ are in final negotiations for development and operations of 2 food and beverage concessions in the pre-security area at the Sangster International Airport. The 1,147 square foot space will accommodate a multi-concept branding offering. The selected brands were chosen based on ECL's and MCG's collective knowledge of the best quick service restaurant, QSR, practices to drive success, current trends in airport food and beverage service, and the local market, with a focus on Montego Bay. To maximize revenue potential and ensure ease of access to the brands, MBJ will extend reduced parking rates and a curbside pickup lane for restaurant patrons. Dairy Queen, DQ, the brand has a long-term history of success, robust brand presence with more than 6,800 locations worldwide, and a 95% consumer brand recognition. Dairy Queen is a community-focused brand which features a full line of fresh, high-quality food and frozen treats, which include classic ice cream desserts and modern, popular food items cooked on an open grill. In addition to DQ, ECL is in talks with a favorably positioned brand in North America's fast-growing chicken QSR market, with restaurants concentrated primarily in the southern United States. The brand enjoys among the highest average unit volumes in the QSR landscape, surpassing Wendy's, Popeyes, and even KFC. The brand has a broad appeal across all income levels, a diversified day part mix with breakfast accounting for 37% of sales before 11 a.m., and a combo shareable deal that creates convenient lunch and dinner solutions for individuals and families. Introducing 2 new internationally recognized brands accessible to all Jamaicans with a combined offering of chicken, burgers, and frozen treats will create an exciting new destination in the Montego Bay landscape. The new locations will have menus that are strategically priced to attract the core Jamaican market. Estimated yearly revenue is projected at 1.2 to 1.3 million US yearly in years 1 to 3. So this is what it will look like. Just a depiction, an artist, a graphic interpretation. The new space features indoor and outdoor seating. The design enhances the overall aesthetics of the airport's exterior and increases access, capacity, and revenue opportunities. The storefront is architecturally open to make the space accessible and inviting while maximizing the visibility of the menu. The facade is aesthetically pleasing and stands out in the environment. The design element for each brand will be incorporated to create a sense of place and maximum impact. So again, looking forward, with unprecedented cooperation from the private and public sectors, Jamaica has led the Caribbean in adopting new protocols and procedures to restart its tourism industry, protect the lives and livelihoods of Jamaicans, and ensure the well-being of visitors and residents while simultaneously delivering an unparalleled Caribbean vacation experience. The 211,000 international tourists between June 2020 and September 2020 generated tourism revenue of approximately $231 million US. However, the pandemic continues to provide challenges for our key supply countries, the United States, Canada, and the UK. Hopes for a swift recovery of international travel are reliant on rapid and widespread distribution of the vaccine. Health vaccine requirements as it relates to traveler and traveler confidence. With vaccines made available to residents of these countries in December 2020, it is anticipated that the travel and tourism sectors should see a considerable uptick in 2021. It is believed short-distance vacations will be preferred, putting Jamaica, located within a 4-hour flight radius of 500 million people, in an advantageous position. Additionally, the success of the Resilient Corridor, COVID-19 compliant tour requirements, and efforts put in place to manage the spread of COVID-19 among the local population have well-positioned Jamaica as an ideal Caribbean destination. Although returning to pre-COVID tourism numbers will take some time, current trends in Jamaica are promising. Most major airlines serving the country are increasing service as the demand picks up, and resorts are projecting a 40% increase in occupancy during the winter season over the previous period. Express Catering Limited continues to invest and expand its offerings at Sangster International Airport. The group remains confident that the effort Jamaica's private and public sectors have put forth and the recent introduction of a vaccine will steadily translate into increasing arrivals and departures for Jamaica. So let's talk about some of the other future development plans that we have. Redevelopment plans continue to move forward at the Sangster International Airport. The expansion provides an increase in passenger circulation and orientation areas, while the increased terminal space will primarily accommodate the relocation of the primary food and beverage offers. The renovation of the Sangster International Airport food court represents an opportunity to capture 100% of the departing passengers from both the east and west concourses, as opposed to 70% of our current capture rate in basically that same area. This represents an increase of 630,000 departing passengers when tourism returns to pre-COVID-19 conditions. Based on the increased capture of departing passengers from the West Terminal and an anticipated increase in the average spend based on access to a larger variety of food and beverage offerings, we project $3.15 million US in increased revenue. In addition to this project, ECL is in advanced negotiations with a joint venture partner to provide all food and beverage offerings for an airport which attributes similar to Sangster International Airport. ECL has contracted Pragma Consulting, Pragma and the Design Solutions, TDS, to develop and maximize the revenue potential of ECL's food and beverage program. Pragma is a leading commercial advisor for investors and operators in mixed-use travel and retail property. TDS, a key partner in MBJ's redevelopment plan for Sangster International Airport, has more than 35 years' experience in airport commercial planning and retail design. The two firms have consulted on airport projects to include airport food and beverage programs worldwide. So, the most exciting addition to Express Catering's food and beverage program is Bob Marley's One Love, a distinctive Jamaican restaurant that draws inspiration from Jamaicans' vibrant culture, food, music, and spirit of generosity. ECL is committed to developing the brand in a way that showcases the best of Jamaica and will honor Bob's legacy of bringing people together. The Anchor restaurant will feature an authentic pimento wood grill, fresh juices, sharing plates, Marley-inspired photo ops, and more. In addition, we're also adding sushi, Bento Sushi, one of the largest sushi companies outside of Japan. The brand on-site bento chefs prepare a selection of sushi, bento boxes, ramen, poke bowls, and more. These fresh menu items can be enjoyed by guests on-site, or pre-packaged selections can be purchased at any of our Express Catering, Viva, grab-and-go locations throughout the entire terminal. We also are adding Freshen's. Freshen's Fresh Food Studio is a healthy, fresh casual concept which offers prepared-to-order food inspired by fresh ingredients, as well as signature fresh blended smoothies and frozen yogurt. With headquarters in Atlanta, Freshen's has been in operation for over 30 years, with 450 locations, including 30 airports and 300 colleges and universities. The new food court design and Anchor restaurant, Bob Marley's One Love, have a cohesive design aesthetic, creating an inviting and open common area for travelers. As travelers make their way through duty-free, they are automatically introduced to the food and beverage offerings in the new food court. A full-scale version of Bob's famous yellow VW bus will serve as an iconic selfie spot. To maximize a high-traffic opportunity, the bus will also serve as an additional revenue center for Marley VW co-branded retail or grab-and-go treats. Express Catering Limited will employ food court servers. These team members will offer streamlined menus to encourage guests at the bar to order food from Bob Marley's or participating quick service restaurants, and food court guests a last drink in paradise from the bar. This unique strategy is expected to increase the average spend by as much as 20%. It also has bright open seating, allowing for the line of sight to all offerings. As you can see in the background, there is also the food court of the different brands. Local textures, sounds, colors, and materials create an authentic Jamaican-inspired experience within the airport. Jamaican famous Blue Mountain coffee, takes center stage in the Sound Lounge, a cafe-style experience within the Bob Marley restaurant. Inspired by Marley's vision of bringing people together, the food court features community tables and shared spaces. The Denim Lounge, also part of the food court located just past Marley's and the Cook Shop Walk food court, pays homage to Jamaica's blue skies and Marley's love of denim. The cool vibe of this space offers a seamless transition to the floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking the runway. New brands, Bento Sushi and Fresh Ends kiosks will add additional revenue opportunities. And so that brings us to the end of a mouthful, I'm sure.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you for that. Really, really helps to see that you guys are still on the ball and trying to build a brand. I just want to remind our listeners who are out there, Express Catering listed in 2017 when they did an IPO and the share came out $1.50 and they raised approximately $491 million at that time. From then to now, in 4.5 short years, we saw that stock price climb to a peak of about $7.50.
Yes.
And in the last year, come down to $6, and since COVID, now roughly down at $3.64. I myself am a little large shareholder, and my average price is probably $4, and I'm not worried, Ian.
No, we're coming back strong.
I have every confidence that the company is going to come back strong. So my first question to you really is, what should passengers expect as they're passing through the food court in these times?
Well, the truth is, we have followed all the protocols that in observing, the mask requirements, the social distancing. The seating has been set up and will be set up in a way that allows that to be a natural part of the experience. And of course, wherever we can provide mobile ordering, we will provide that so that people are not trying to line up in particular areas. All the different protocols that we have recognized that has been working to mitigate the people being exposed to COVID-19 is in place.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Second question is, has the company renegotiated with MBJ Airports Limited to reduce its lease and maintenance expenses?
So, for the period of 2020, since COVID commenced, MBJ has proven to be really great partners with us. And we have, for want of a better word, we have held hands and we have jumped in together and we have managed the environment as best as we can. So to date, up to the end of December, we have managed to reduce our lease costs and other maintenance costs with MBJ. Okay. So they've been great partners in that regard.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. Chairman Berry, I want to kick it over to you early so you can get in your questions early. Do you have any questions for Ian?
Yes, welcome, Ian. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Chris.
On our little adventure here. So, the big talk this week is the new US protocol, which requires people to test on re-entry. Right now, it seems like it's a temporary measure, but we don't know. It could be extended. People seem to feel that this could be a big negative blow for the travel business. What are your thoughts on this? And when do you think we'll start seeing some serious return to traveling?
Thanks for that question, Chris. I actually believe that the testing requirement, Jamaica has required for visitors to come into Jamaica with a negative COVID test for a while now. And so the reverse is happening where visitors are required to go to their home with a negative COVID test. I believe it's probably the right thing because at the end of the day, we're all trying to mitigate this from continuing. And so if it can create an additional safety layer, both for incoming visitors and people going back home, I think it will work out for the best in the medium term. And I don't think it's going to disappear overnight. I think it might be with us for a while as part of how we have to go about business. And I think we've ramped up sufficiently to be able to have adequate supply of testing available here now. I think we've done a great job in a very short time to respond to the new requirement. So to answer your second part of your question, I think obviously the vaccine program will be very impactful to what, when people start to travel again. I believe that what has happened recently in the United States by getting things in order, they seem to be putting the vaccine in people's arms at a higher rate now. And so I think that's going to bode well for us. I think in the short term, it may create some, challenging situations because people are maybe unsure as to what's going on. But I think over time, I think it'll bode well for us. I think we will see the benefit of a stable supply country like United States, Canada, and the UK potentially growing in confidence to travel. And I think Jamaica is in the sweet spot of that 4-hour window, certainly from United States and Canada, that I think we will benefit from some significant increase in numbers once things settle down.
Great question, Chairman. And as a slight follow-up to that, Ian, when would you predict, in which quarter would you predict that our traffic volumes will be, back to close to normal, within, plus minus 10% of normal? Do you think that's going to happen 2 quarters, 3 quarters from now? What's your expectation given the vaccines being rolling out at a very fast pace in the U.S.? We expect to have 100 million vaccines, I think, done within 120 days, maybe not 100 days. What are your thoughts about when you think that traffic is going to get back closer to normal?
So, if they're talking about 100 million Americans getting the vaccine in that 100 days, one could look at mid-year to see where there's a significant portion of the United States population that have been vaccinated. So one would think that based on that, the confidence level to travel would significantly increase. So I anticipate that by mid-year, June, July, we should start to see a turnaround in those numbers pretty significantly, I'm hoping. And that's the anticipation.
Excellent.
So that confidence level is a key factor.
I agree. And I do think Americans will be suffering from cabin fever and wanting to get out for the summer, June, July. I really do think so. And the vaccine only makes that possibility, I think, more.
I think I read somewhere that there was a similar type of outbreak, and there was a lockdown period not in our lifetime, but but the period after, people just went crazy because they literally were just tired of being in a lockdown at home.
Locked up. Yeah. No,
I think we'll see the benefit of that.
Absolutely, I think so too. What other steps have been taken to steady the ship during this pandemic in the meantime? So we heard about the MBG lease arrangement. You alluded to some of it in your presentation.
Well, I mean, basically what we've been trying to do is to manage our costs as best as we can, and to engage our partners for everybody to understand what we're going through and the outlook. And that we're mitigating as best as we can until the business comes back. One thing for sure that we're very confident about is that tourism is just going through a period of instability. And one thing I'm very confident about is that when it comes back, it's going to come back very strong.
Excellent.
So I think it's just, us managing this period of instability and not losing the confidence that, don't throw the baby in the bathwater, because the reality is that tourism has been around for a while. It has stood the test of time. And this is a 1-in-100-year event that we should not allow it for us to lose sight of the opportunities that tourism represents.
I totally agree, and I'll talk a little bit more in our market segment that's coming up. We see where the North American stock market is pretty much at all-time highs. The market tends to be forward-looking. They're already anticipating this breakthrough to come through. And for our Jamaican market, I think we should be in the same place. Now is the time, folks out there, I think, to be making investment in companies like Express Catering, I'm not afraid to say, which I think are going to come out on the other side even stronger. So don't wait until June to make the investment, guys. Now is the time to make the investment when the stock price is a little bit on the low side. Gary, any questions, comments from you?
I want to, I was chatting up a stuff when I was on mute. I want to congratulate Ian. He seems to have signed a deal with the Bob Marley family. I don't know if you could expand on that in terms of, how wide that deal is. That's the first one. Ultimately, you're trying to maintain costs, etc. At what point do you think the recovery, at what point at which a recovery comes where you start to have a positive cash generating scenario?
So, to your first question, the Bob Marley One Love has been a long time in coming. It's something that I actually engaged the Marley family about 15 years ago, and it wasn't the right time. But we re-engaged in the last 2 years. And so we are pleased that we managed to do a deal and actually finalize a deal during COVID with the first location in the world being at Sangster International Airport. Of course, we have bigger plans for it. The agreement speaks to really a global outlook. And so we will definitely be establishing the brand in its home, of course, in Jamaica. And so while the first location will be at Sangster's, there will be other locations in the near future. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity. We are very humbled by this great global icon, Bob Marley, to represent who he is and what he stands for. I think it's something that we should all be very proud of. And so we plan to protect and enhance his legacy in a real way. In terms of the cash flow, I would say that the positive cash flow would really start to turn around when our arrival numbers go up clearly. Because 97% of our revenue at Sangster, the passenger load really comes through visitors. And so what we're seeing is that while we anticipate an uptick probably starting in March again and April, there'll be positive movements. We really, as I said earlier, I think the vaccine is going to play a very critical role in building visitor confidence to travel. And I anticipate that getting to real serious numbers, I'm hoping by middle to June, July of this year. But that takes time, and every day seems to be a new day with COVID. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to plan, but I think the vaccine and the new focus of the current U.S. administration in getting their house in order, I think bodes well for us. So I'm very encouraged by that.
Excellent. And the fifth question we have here is, has the company explored possible expansion plans for other airports? And has the pandemic affected these plans?
So yes, of course, the pandemic would have slowed us down because, not only has it affected the economics around most places in the world as it relates to travel, the fact of COVID, they have not been able to travel to meet people, etc. And so that has affected that whole investment outlook. But we have engaged and we are hoping to enter into an MOU with another new airport in short order with some other folks in that country. So we have a few discussions taking place. So we're constantly looking for opportunities to expand the horizon of express catering.
Excellent. And one thing I know you guys do well is manage brands. In fact, you have over 25 brands.
We have over 25 brands and counting.
And counting. Excellent. Yes. Excellent. And does the company expect immediate recovery once the virus fears subside? So if traffic were really to start to pick up in June, July, that's going to flow straight to your bottom line?
So the reality, the good news for us is that, we literally have, we generate revenue the moment people touch down in Jamaica. And at the end, so both on the front end and the back end, we get them to consume. So once they arrive, they have to depart. And so we get them on the front and the back end. So we anticipate it's an immediate cash flow positive response once they hit our shores.
Absolutely, and there's a very high correlation between the traffic and your sales.
Absolutely, directly, direct correlation.
Absolutely. So I'm not personally surprised when I look at the August quarter and see, unfortunately, a 90% decline in sales. It's reflective of the traffic volumes.
That's
how
correct.
how far off the traffic volumes have fallen. So the flip side of that, obviously, is when the traffic volumes pick up, this business, which was set to grow and have the highest profit ever in 2020, but for the pandemic, I expect.
So what we're trying to do also, I think, with expansion opportunities that we've realized and we're going to execute, that should actually help us improve our sales per customer. So our yield per customer should go up quite a bit is the plan, and we feel very confident about that.
Excellent, excellent. The disruption to the company's rapid growth since listing has led to a decline in the stock price, which I talked about earlier, and a net loss for the first quarter, which I mentioned in August. What would you say to reassure investors as the global vaccination gets underway?
Well, the truth is the company is it's a great company. It's solid in its business plan. We've been executing it for a while now. Pre-COVID, the numbers were increasing year over year, solid as a rock. And so we anticipate that will continue. Once we are able to attract visitors to our shores, we have created a formula. And in fact, I think we've actually improved on the formula, to be honest with you, because we've brought in a lot of professional advice of how to position what we're offering to get better yields. So not only are we adding additional experiences, but our positioning of our existing brands and offerings have actually been sort of rejigged to try and get additional yields out of customers. So I think it bodes well for the future.
Yes, I think so too. And again, it's a company I really like, Ian, and not just because you're here, but anyone who grows their sales from 8 million to 17 million in 7 years. And this is in US dollar terms. So it's easy when we're talking about Jamaican numbers for Jamaican inflation to drive 100%, 150% growth in sales, but this is growth in US dollar terms, which I think is pretty significant.
Thank you.
Chairman Berry, any more questions from you before I start moving on to stock top picks and our market segment? Gary, what about you? Any more questions from you?
Yeah, I have an interesting question. I want Ian to think about it. So, if we were to assume there was no COVID and Express showed their numbers that they should have shown to May 31st last year, coupled with these new opportunities, what would revenues and profits look like? And give me a range. I mean, we know it's not exact.
I don't have the numbers right here before me, but I would say, with the outlook and the consultations that we had, certainly I would say there would be a 30% movement to be safe.
Yeah.
I think that would be a safe number to say, and maybe even more. But it's not absolute numbers clearly. But I think it would be pretty significant in if we had the same trajectory that was happening up to March, early March of 2020. I think we would be in pretty solid shape.
Right. So you see, the genesis of the question really is that, we've gone through COVID. This is a business that we believe will come back. And the average investor out there, they'll want to get an idea as to, okay, what would that normalized profit look like? And I think that would give somebody an opportunity to determine where the stock price is now and where it would go. All things being equal, the market, your revenues come back, the Bob Marley stuff, etc. The yield per customer that you speak about would rise. So that gives somebody an idea as to the potential profit they could make if they want to jump into the stock.
Sure. I think it'll be pretty substantial, to be honest with you, but we'll see with time.
There's no doubt in my mind, crunching the numbers, that they grew the business profitability significantly in 2019. Sales increased by, I think, roughly 30%, up to $17 million US. And then in the 9 months profit was higher than the prior year.
Right.
And then comes the pandemic. In the last 2 months of your financial year, you see significant decline in traffic, and then sales end up being 20% lower. So I have no doubt that the $3.7 million profit that they did in 2019 is a number you should be able to improve, just as an analyst,
For
by
sure.
20 to 30%.
No question.
And there's no doubt the correlation between Jamaica's traffic and how well you do, and Jamaica has been growing its traffic as well too.
That's correct.
So outside of Express improving the quality of the offerings, the number of stores, adding good franchise brands like the Bob Marley folks, we see the Jamaica tourism arrival numbers growing naturally as well too. So I really think it's a great business. Yes, it's tied to tourism, but I mean, tourism is our bread and butter.
Exactly. And it will come back.
It will absolutely
Yeah.
come back. I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
Dan,
Chairman,
yes, I have a question.
absolutely.
So, Ian, the Bob Marley deal, who owns the global rights to that deal? Is it ECL, or ECL is just having the rights for the Jamaica?
So
And then the real question is the number 2 question. Are you going into QSR in Jamaica, or are you going to stay in the Margaritaville and the hotels?
So, all right, to answer your first question, the first location of Bob Marley, One Love, will be, of course, operating at the Sanks International Airport, owned by ECL. Beyond that, we have a bigger plan outside, which will not be driven by ECL unless it's in the airport space. So once we are in the airport space and Bob Marley's One Love is relevant to that space, it will be through ECL. So I hope that answers your question there. In terms of the QSR space in Jamaica, outside of the airports, and as you have seen, I'm involved with other brands already operating in the Jamaican space. And so, yes, to answer your question, we will be embarking on some additional QSR opportunities in the Jamaican landscape.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So we'd like to now move into our top picks before we come back and take some of your questions from social media.
Before you finish, Dan, I think a disclosure here might be relevant.
Yes?
When Ian speaks about, yes, we're moving into that space, I assume he's speaking as Margaritaville and not ECL.
Correct.
So I just need Ian to clarify that.
Clarification,
I don't want investors to feel like ECL is the vehicle. Well, I don't know. Is ECL going to be the vehicle?
Correct. No, you're absolutely correct. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Gary. No, it'll actually be. So again, ECL will operate all of our airport opportunities wherever they may be, and that's what we're discussing and negotiating now. But outside the airport footprint will be other vehicles, other companies that will execute those opportunities. So, for example, the pre-security space that we are launching at Sangster will be on the ECL. And that will be a diversified market because that will not only be available to travelers, it will be available to the general Jamaica population to have access. So, but it's still on the footprint of the airport. So that falls to ECL, Express Catering.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Okay, thanks. So unless there are any more questions from my panelists, I know we're going to have some questions from social media. So folks, send that in. We have a few coming already. But before we take those questions, let's look at the top stock picks for this week. Great. So I'd like to look at the top decliners and the top gainers for the week as well, too. So we start with the top decliners. Of the 5, the first being Purity, the second being KLE, which fell by 14.29% this week. Third being CAC, which fell by 13%. Fourth being Dolphin Cove, another tourism stock, which fell by 10.75% this week. and the last one being JMMB Group, which fell by 6.74%. And of course, JMMB happens to be my top pick, which you're going to hear about, so don't worry about that 6% decline. Lumber Depot, that was my favorite from last week. That one's up 12.43%, nothing to do with me. Siboney, up 9.5% this week. Also, T-Tech, that's up by 8% this week. Congrats to the T-Tech folks. First Rock in US dollars, it's up by 7.63%. Get them, Ryan. And MIL, look at that. MIL was down last week, this week up by 7.41%.
Great.
And my top stock pick for this week, Dan Theok, remember you heard it here first, is JMMB. So despite falling by 6% this week, I would not be worried about this one at all. It's a company that raised $14 billion at $38. And I liked it then, so you know I love it now at $32 with a PE ratio of 9.5 times. I mean, like, how's that even possible when the main market average is 12 times? Why should JMMB be 20% below market? Doesn't make any sense to me. Price to book is 1.26. This company made $6.6 billion and is growing. So JMMB is definitely one that I like. I think you should go out and buy as much of it as you can.
Full disclosure, we own JMMB stock.
And that doesn't make it my top pick, but yes, Mayberry Investments, I gotta be a top 20 shareholder in JMMB. I don't know what Mr. Berry and MJE are not top 20 shareholders in, with a $12 billion MJE portfolio, which might be my top pick next week, but for this week, it's definitely JMMB. And folks, believe you me, the market is coming back strong, right? We just saw Burita close on Derrimont, and that's being upsized. That's, congrats to Burita and to Derrimont, who happens to be another client of ours. And again, Mr. Berry happens to be a top 5 shareholder in Derrimont, or I should say you shareholders of MJE. So congrats to Derrimont. So let's go into the questions from social media. We saw one from Mark, but Mark, that QSR question was asked by Mr. Berry just before you. We got another one from a fellow called Abel Donfoot. He says, the next jurisdiction that you intend to expand to are the number of arrivals and departures similar to MBJ. MDJ did millions in traffic, 4 million for you, Abel Don. So Abel Don's asking this next jurisdiction.
So the one that we are currently negotiating actually does not currently have as much as MBJ or Sangster had. But it's an exciting destination that when we do announce it, you will understand that it's actually a very young market that's about to explode for a number of reasons. And as a result of that, it will probably see a number of new professional travelers that will not only be going to that destination for tourism purposes, but for business travel. So it's a very interesting opportunity that we are pretty excited about and we hope to realize.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to that. I look forward to that as a shareholder. Moving on to our market segment. In this section, we talk about what's happening in the market. It could be the foreign currency market or the market generally. And Chairman, we would love to get your guidance here.
Talking to me, Dan?
Yes, Chairman Berry. We're in the market segment where we like to talk about what's happening in the future, whether it's Forex or just the stock market in general, and we wanted to get some thoughts from you on that.
Okay, today I'll give you my Forex comment. My Forex comment is that don't go chasing it. It may be cheaper next week.
Excellent. Well, we had the Minister of Finance on last week. I continue to be impressed with how Jamaica has managed its foreign reserves during this difficult time. And
very impressive.
It certainly gives me confidence that coming up into the budget debate, we're going to have good things. Gary, any thoughts from you about the market?
One of the good things is that the macroeconomic environment remain stable. So we still expect interest rates to remain relatively low. I think the only variable that people are not sure about is the foreign exchange market. The volatility is cause for concern for some of the businesses. I mean, we've seen a range start in the year at 143, and I think it traded close to 150 today, I believe. So I think businesses need to be very clear on when they choose to go and buy and to sell. But I like what I'm seeing. I think we're finally seeing certain stocks in the market starting to respond. And, we all await the minister's budget. And we hope that in this trying time that we don't get any new taxes. And I think once we're able to get a budget with no new taxes, I think that those green shoots of recovery will continue to take strong effect.
Thank you, Gary. I totally agree. Well, folks, looks like we've come to the end of the program. It's amazing how fast the hour runs off. To our viewers, thank you all for being a part of our weekly investor forum. I'd like to also thank our very special guest this week, Mr. Ian Dare. Thanks so much for being with us,
Thanks
Ian.
for having me.
For his participation in today's investor briefing. We are certainly looking forward to having yet another insightful discussion in the coming week. Next week, we'll be featuring Christopher Clark, Managing Director and CEO of Caribbean Cream Limited, Creamy. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our live streams. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in today. Keep safe, and remember, wise investors, Gary?
No new taxes.
No new taxes.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.